following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, is this Jerry?
Yes. Hello, George.
How you doing, Jerry?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. You okay?
Yeah. I'm all set up, ready to go.
All right. Can you hear me all right?
I can, yes.
All right. You're a little low. Let me see if I can turn you up a little bit. Hold on.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right. That's
Can you hear me?
All right. Yep. I can hear you. All right. All right. I'm going to start now, okay?
Is it all right if I say hello to a couple of people I know in New York?
Say that again?
Is it all right if I say hello to a couple of people I know in New York?
Sure.
By name.
Sure. Later on towards we get towards the end. Well, no.
Okay.
No, right at the beginning is fine when I introduce you. Okay?
Okay. Yes, thank you.
All right, Ralph, ready to take it away. Welcome to the Retro Rangers podcast on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm your host, George Grimm, and my guest this evening is goaltender and author Jerry Hack, who has written a very interesting book called Memoir of a Hockey Nobody. They said I'd never make it to the NHL, so I went out and proved them right. And it's a very, very entertaining book. It's the kind of book that you can't stop reading, but you don't want it to end either. So, hey Jerry, how's it going?
Hello, New York. I hate the Bruins. How are you?
Okay. How's everything going with how's everyone's health up there? Everybody healthy?
Yeah, everybody's good so far, touch wood. We're self-isolating. The child is kind of bouncing off the walls, but she's been actually really good. And it's been a little stressful for my wife. She's essential service. And but we don't know anybody personally who's been affected by it. So,
right.
So far we're doing good. How about you?
We're okay. We're sheltered at home here, and it's just a matter of time. Waiting for this all to end. Till they get a vaccine. Okay, the book. Who was the inspiration for the book? Why did you write it?
Well, it started out kind of a lark. I really didn't have any kind of master plan. It just I was going through my scrapbook from my playing days, and I started posting some stories on Facebook, and they were getting quite a reaction. People were seeming to enjoy them. So, a few of them mentioned that I may want to write a book. And, I hadn't written anything since high school, 40 years ago. So I didn't really think I had it in me. And I just thought, well, I'll give it a shot. And so I wrote the first couple of chapters and showed it to my wife. And my wife is very British. She's very stoic. And to get her to laugh or to show any emotion at all is very difficult, And so, she read the first couple of chapters and, she laughed out loud a couple of times, and then she even started to cry at one point. And so I kind of knew I was onto something, but, she said, it doesn't suck. So I kind of just completed it. I finished it off, and away we went.
Good. Any idea the length of time that it actually took to write it?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Any idea the length of time that it took you to write it?
Oh, well, I I almost feel a little guilty, George, because I know how much effort people put into writing their books. I mean, generally it's a ton of research, and it's a labor of love, and some take years to complete. Well, I pretty much wrote it in the month of November.
Oh, wow.
And then completed the bulk of it, and then during the first couple of weeks of December, I was kind of driving my wife batty because we'd be, sleeping, and I'd bolt up in the middle of the night and run down, because I had to run downstairs to the computer because I remembered something that had to go in the book, and so I kept waking her up. But that lasted a few weeks, and then I gave it to the first editor, and she had it for about a week, and then the second editor had it over Christmas. And then I got it back, and I added a few other things that I thought should go in, and then I did one final edit where I just went over it with a fine-tooth comb, and then I sent the manuscript off to the publisher. So basically 2 months.
Oh, good for you. That's very good. Who was your favorite team and your favorite goaltender growing up?
First of all, it was in 1971. I started watching the 1971 Stanley Cup final between Chicago and Vancouver, Chicago and Montreal, and so the two goalies, Ken Dryden and Tony Esposito, but we were rooting for the Canadians because we were Canadian. So Ken Dryden was my very first favorite goalie, and not long after, my sister got me into watching the Canucks, and so I became a huge Canucks fan. And then it was always the goalies. I'm partial to the goalies, of course, and but I got to say, I was an Ed Giacomin fan when I was younger. I had a Ed Giacomin poster on my wall, as well as Brad Park, and I just loved the way he played. He was so acrobatic, and you could tell he just had a passion for the game, and he loved what he was doing, and it just was he was so much fun to watch. And other than that, it was always the Canuck goalies. Gary Smith was first. He had that one really good season for Vancouver, and he was just amazing. And then it turned into Glenn Hanlon and Kirk McLean and Roberto Luongo, on and on.
Right. What about your actual goaltending style? Did you model yourself after any one of those guys?
You know what? No. I didn't. I played goalie in street hockey all growing up until I was 18. So, I kind of knew the basics and the fundamentals of the position, but trying to apply it to ice hockey was a real eye opener. I didn't know how to skate. I'd only skated a few times growing up as a kid, and so I just learned by doing, and I watched everybody that I could, like on TV, guys I played with, guys I played against, everybody. I watched everybody, even the bad ones, even guys who were terrible, because maybe they did one thing that really well, and then I could kind of incorporate that into my game. So really, I can honestly say I have a style unto myself. I have no real, I've never had a coach, a goalie coach, or anything like that. I was entirely self-taught. I went to one goalie school for 3 weeks, but basically they just did a bunch of shooting drills, and they tried to teach you how to poke check, but it was really strange how they did it, and I never ever never ever did it once the way they taught it. So I just had my own style. I refer to it as a hybrid style, because I wasn't a butterfly goalie. I wasn't a stand-up goalie. I wasn't a reflex goalie. I just, absorbed everything that I saw, and
Right.
people were, whatever people did that I liked, and I thought I could incorporate into my own game, I did, and if it didn't work, I just left it behind, and then I would, maybe bring it out later when I got better, and my skating got stronger, and then, just learn by doing, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's probably the best way. Because when I was a kid, I was, playing goal in the street, and I was okay, I guess. And then I read Jacques Plante's book on goaltending, and I read it, and the next weekend I went out and tried to do what he said in the book, and I let in 10 goals. So I went home, said screw that, and threw the book out, and I just did what I did. And it worked out. So.
Yeah, I had that book. I read that book too, and no, it didn't really work for me either. I really liked the pictures that were in it, but no, I can honestly say that I am completely self-taught. I taught myself how to play, so and then it worked for me, and that's just the way it was.
Okay, now by my count, as per the back of your book, you played for 53 teams in your 30-plus year career. Now, each one of those teams you probably had to try out for. What was that like to have to try out for your spot every year almost?
Well, for most of those teams in the back, and I'm sure that I'm forgetting some.
Right.
Probably there's probably closer to 75 than 53. So, but because I never said no. I always, whoever called me, I was there. It's all I wanted to do was play hockey, and so whenever the phone rang, I was the first answer, and away I went. So I'm sure I'm forgetting a few, but you know what? I'm not the type to get real nervous. I'm trying out as pressure comes from within, and I'm my own worst critic. So I didn't really get too nervous. I was more excited, and I had a coach in Whitehorse, and he said pressure makes diamonds. So I always kind of took that to heart, and that makes perfect sense to me. And the best answer I ever heard was, I think it was Don Beaupre. You remember Don Beaupre?
Yes.
Yeah, Minnesota North Stars.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it was him, but they asked him one time, how much pressure do you feel? And he said 328 pounds per square inch at sea level. So so that kind of sums it up for me. I don't. Pressure never really got to me. My pressure came from within my own, my own motivation, and so I just kind of, if I did get nervous, I tried to turn it into positive energy and use it to my advantage.
Right.
There were a few times, when I got nervous, but it didn't last long, and I was generally able just to get rid of it. So, trying out for teams is, sure, it's kind of, it's kind of a one of a kind thing, and but I never viewed the other goalies as my competition. I viewed them as potential teammates, so I never really had any kind of, like you hear these stories about, like Patrick Waugh, treated his backups like crap and whatnot. I never believed in that, and I just, I was never one to succumb to pressure, I don't think.
Good. Well, all the other goalies, you had 2 or 3 goalies who kind of haunted you throughout your career. They kept following you around. You just, it was either them or you who was going to, get the spot,
Yeah, there's a couple guys that, seem to always seem to be in the background, and people would compare me to them or compare my resume to theirs. And of course, I didn't have one, so there wasn't much to compare. So it just, I don't know. Those guys, they were upper echelon goalies, and I was a hockey nobody. I was, I just came out of nowhere. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew my name, what I had done before. It was kind of a weird situation. And those guys, they played here, played there, did this, did that, and everybody knew who they were. And so I just kind of had to fight against that and let my play speak for itself,
Right.
And in some cases it worked, and some cases it didn't. So, the cream doesn't always rise to the top,
Right. How about road trips and roommates and living in other people's basements? You got any funny stories about any of those episodes?
Yeah, well, when I started playing serious hockey, and they billeted me with a guy and his wife who were on the team, we stayed in his basement. There was another guy from Burnaby. His name was Rob Wallace, and he was my roommate. And he was pretty abrasive. He was not a bad guy. He had a good heart, but he just, his social graces weren't the best, And
Right.
so he would do things, and especially when he drank, he got 100 times more abrasive when he drank. I mean, we were at a party one time, and that party was in the basement, and Rob headed up the stairs while this girl was coming down the stairs, and he met her halfway, and he did the little, hey, honey, how you doing? And he kind of grabbed her inappropriately. And, if he had done that today, he probably would have been arrested. But anyways, the problem was her boyfriend was right behind her, and he just took a step down and punched Rob right in the face, and Rob tumbled down the stairs, and he kind of landed on his side, and his head kind of landed on his arm, and he was out cold, and
wow.
Couple of nurses were there, and so they came over and checked that he was still breathing, that he had a pulse and everything. So we just left him there, and and the party's going on, and everybody's just kind of stepping over him whenever they had to go up or down the stairs, and then finally after about an hour and a half, he woke up, and he crawls up the stairs, and he makes his way home, and then next day he's sitting on the couch watching TV, and I'm a late riser, and he was an early riser, so he was sitting on the couch just watching TV, and I got up, and I said, hey, Rob, good party last night? He said, oh, yeah, I had an awesome time. I don't know why my nose is so sore, though.
Yeah.
He didn't remember anything about it.
Yeah.
And, he told me one time that he was playing junior hockey with the Richmond Sockeyes, a local team here, junior A team, and his own team beat him up.
That's pretty big.
How abrasive do you have to be for your own team to beat you up? So it was. I kind of laughed at that, but he was a hell of a hockey player. He actually he played professionally in Germany after I played with him, and he was there for a season or two, and not in the top division, but 2, 3, or 4. I can't remember, but he did play well. He was unbelievable at shaking a check. He could stop on a dime, and anybody who was checking would kind of stumble and fall and do a face plant. He had this ability that was I'd never seen anybody else do it.
How about road trips?
Oh man. in Saskatchewan, and they are long and they are boring because, all the roads are straight. There's no hills, there's no trees, there's only farmland. So, the scenery never changes, so you kind of have to make up your own entertainment. And that was my favorite, was because we would be on the road, and especially coming home on the way to the game, we didn't, guys were just kind of getting into their own headspace and getting ready for the game. So not a whole lot went on, a little bit of talking and whatnot. But on the way home, we would sit there and play cards or whatever. But I would just sit and listen to them because all these guys played, all over some played, some played pro, most of them played junior. So they had all these stories, like story after story. I wish I could remember them because, man, I just sit there and absorb all this, and some of the tales they told were just amazing, and that was my favorite part, was just listening to these guys, tell their story. And like I say, I wish I could remember half of them there. It was just, it'd blow your mind, George. It really would.
Yeah. How are the roads up in North Battleford, Saskatchewan? When I interviewed him, about 3 years ago, when I interviewed Emil Francis, he was telling me that the roads in North Battleford, Ontario, Saskatchewan, had better ice than they had in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, no doubt. And I used to watch games on the old, and the ice always looked cut up and choppy and not very good. The roads weren't horrible, in the wintertime, and, there's blowing snow and stuff. And there's a couple of times, the weather got so bad we had to take it really easy, but, not too bad. We never had an issue with our bus. We always seemed to make it to the game safely. We had a really good bus driver. Yeah. His name was Andy Tremblay, and he was just top shelf.
Yeah. How about the temperature? How cold did it get up?
Oh man, it's living in Vancouver, you get spoiled because it never really gets very cold here. But there, when I very first got there, it was only about -10, and there was no snow on the ground. So I thought, oh man, it's gonna be a piece of cake. And then it took about maybe a month when the first really cold snap hit, and man, it really, really opened my eyes. I mean, I tried walking home from a party, and I only had 3 blocks to go, and I only had a light jacket on, and I thought, it'd be no problem. But I was walking into a headwind, and I'm telling you, George, I barely made it. I mean, if I had another block to go, you probably wouldn't be talking to me because I would have been dead. Because I got home and my forehead was just a block of ice, and I learned my lesson that day. I never ever did that again.
Yeah. Wow.
But there were times when we would practice in -40, but there was no heat on in the rink. Okay. And, every shot hurt. It was like every shot above the knees, hurt like hell. It was not fun. And, I had my helmet split open once.
Wow.
Just because my helmet was frozen solid, and I took a slap shot from about 30 feet out, and
yeah.
I ducked, and it hit the top of my helmet, and it split it wide open. I had a pretty big bump there, but no concussion or anything.
Yeah. Pretty tough, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been lucky at 35 years of hockey ice hockey that I played. I never had a concussion. I never had surgery. My shoulders are good. My knees are good. My ankles are good. I don't suffer any long-term effects from it. And I I saw a guy that when I was playing in Whitehorse, I played against this guy named Jeff Banyard, and I saw him probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and in a hockey shop, and he could barely walk. He said he needed hip replacement surgery, and I said, oh man, and he looked like he was in a lot of pain. I felt really bad for him, but touch wood, I've been lucky. I don't have any lingering issues from playing.
Good for you. Okay, what was the highlight of your hockey career?
Obviously winning the Saskatchewan provincial championship in the year before, we didn't do so well, and so, winning after you lose it makes it doubly sweet. So, 1990 was good, but I talk about it in the book. We used to go when I played in Assiniboia and in Whitehorse, we would go to Fairbanks, quite often and play their senior team. And they played in this arena that had mirrors on the ceiling and Olympic-sized ice, and they had 2,000 of the most raucous fans you could ever ask for. I mean, they were loud and proud and rude and ruthless. They would say anything to get you off your game. They made up stuff, man. I wouldn't even have thought of in a million years. And they insulted my family. They insulted my heritage. They insulted my name. There's just constant barrage of insults thrown at you. And so I went there one time in Whitehorse. We went and played a weekend series, and the other goalie couldn't come, and so I played both the games, and we got outshot really badly in both games. I stopped well over 50 shots in each game, and after the game was over, we shook hands and turned a handshake. The PA announcer comes over the speakers, and he says, goaltender Jerry Hack has stopped 104 out of 112 shots this weekend. How about giving him a round of applause? And to my amazement, I still don't believe it to this day, all 2,000 fans stood up and applauded for about a minute.
Wow.
And so that was my proudest moment, because, number one, they weren't our fans, and they definitely weren't a fan of me. And so for them to do that, I know it was something special. So, that's something I'll never, ever forget, and I'm grateful for.
Yeah. Well, that's good. They appreciated your work.
Yeah, exactly. And in the bar after, we always go to the bar after, and in Fairbanks, the bar stays open till 5 o'clock in the morning, and I went up to the bar and got a beer and stood next to the bar, and it was like a lineup of people just wanting to shake my hand, it's like, I couldn't move. It was like, it was like one after the other, after the other, after the other. And they all wanted to talk and, talk hockey and whatnot. So it was great. It was, something I'll never forget, like I said.
Okay. Back in the early part of this year, a 42-year-old Zamboni driver named Dave Ayers was called on to be the emergency backup goaltender for the Carolina Hurricane. How do you feel about that? If that was you, how would you have handled it? Would you have, looked forward to the opportunity? Would you, what are your thoughts on that?
You know what? I wouldn't be able to get out there fast enough. I would have set speed records getting my equipment on and getting out there. It was, that's a dream come true for any goalie. I would hope. I wouldn't. That's just, for me, it would be because I'm a modest guy. I don't brag a whole lot. I don't talk about myself a whole lot. I'm quite uncomfortable doing so. And so, when I get compliments, I usually change the subject right away. And so, but in my own head, inside, if you spend a minute inside my own head, I'm really cocky. I have an unending confidence or I did when I played. I had an unending confidence in my ability to play the game. I just don't.
You have to. Being a goalie.
Yeah, even if you're no good at it, you have to have that. You have to want to be in that position.
Yeah.
And so, I would have used it as just another chance to show off. And we actually had it happen here with a goalie named Chris Levesque. He was the third goalie for the UBC, University of British Columbia Thunderbirds hockey team. And Dan Kluche, who you guys would be familiar with, he got injured in the morning, and the Canucks farm team was on the East Coast, so they couldn't get Alex Auld was the third goalie, and you'd be familiar with him too. And they couldn't get him in time, so they called Chris Levesque, and they couldn't find him. He was in a library studying for an exam. And so finally when they located him, they told him what was going on. He thought he was being pranked. And he didn't think it was real. And then finally somebody from the Canucks called him. And then he knew it was real. And so he had to go back up Johan Hedberg, who was playing. And there was a play during the game, I can't remember when, but Hedberg collided with another player and was down, and they showed Chris Levesque on the bench, and he's just chomping away on his gum, and it looked like he was about to, he was about to crap his pants, and it turned out Johan Hedberg was okay, and he ended up playing the game. And then another time in Vancouver, the San Jose Sharks had a situation where their goalie got hurt in the morning, so they called up a local guy, and can't really remember. I think his name was Jordan White, and he had played junior hockey, and I think he just happened to be in the stands, and they called him down, and I can't remember the whole story, but he ended up being an emergency backup, and the good thing about his story was that he had played junior with Devin Setaguchi, and after the game was over, the San Jose players were told that Jordan White wasn't able to get paid for the trial or for the backup position because he was an amateur and he couldn't lose his amateur status. And so Devin Setaguchi passed the hat around, and from what I understand, from what I heard, they were quite generous. So he probably walked out of there with a fair amount of cash. So I like that story.
Yeah. The Rangers had a guy named Joe Schaefer. He was their house goalie, they used to call it, when NHL teams could only dress one goaltender. And on two occasions, he was called in to replace Gump Worsley. And they were playing the Chicago Blackhawks with Bobby Hull. And Schaefer was in his 40s. He was an office manager in Long Island. He was off-ice official for the Rangers. He was their practice goalie. So he was not a man who was in great shape. But he went in there. He lost both games. He played half of one game basically, and I think the third period of the other. And he survived. So
and those guys who played back with no masks, I mean, those guys were crazy. I don't think I could have done that. Those guys, especially facing Bobby Hull, I mean, that was life and death.
Yeah.
It was, there's not a chance in hell that I would want to face a Bobby Hull slap shot with no mask on, man. Those guys were nuts.
Right. Well, you would think, you would hope that, the Blackhawks in that situation, knowing that they could pretty much score at will, they would, get shots down and, just try to take it easy on the guy, You would hope. I don't know, but you would hope. So.
Yeah, I would hope too, because Bobby Hull had to know that he could kill somebody if he
sure.
If he hit him in the head, man. So for sure, yeah. But I also remember there was just not too long ago that guy in Chicago, Foster. His last name was Foster.
Right.
Scott Foster, and he played, and he actually played really well. He stopped Dustin Buckland a couple of times, and I was impressed with him, and he was absolutely hilarious in his after game interview. I laughed so hard, and I played against NHL players.
Right.
I played against Tiger Williams. One time, I think in the lockout year, I can't remember what year that was, 2004, 2005, something like that. Well, Matt Cook, who was playing for the Canucks, was a friend of somebody who was on the team that we were playing. And so he was at the ring, and they came into our dressing room and asked, do you mind if Matt Cook plays? And we said, no problem. And so, Matt was out there, and he played defense. So I didn't see him a whole lot. He got a few shots away. Didn't score on me, but he didn't, he didn't really get all that close. So, but the one thing I remember is that one of our centermen took a pass at center ice from behind him, and I guess Matt Cook just couldn't help himself because it was non-hitting hockey. But he just he just stepped into him and so it was kind of a badge of honor. I got body sick by Matt Cook. It was pretty funny. And I talked to him after the game, and he's actually a really nice guy. And I also played against Cliff Ronning, Drew Callender, and Rob Tudor both played in Saskatchewan when I was there.
Right.
And they both had a cup of coffee in the NHL. They were actually teammates on the Canucks for one season. And then Doug Trapp, I think played a couple of games for Buffalo. He played in the same league in Saskatchewan. So, I played against NHL caliber guys, and I held my own. I'm not saying I'm an NHL caliber goalie. Far from it. I mean, I'm a realist. I'm pretty sure I have both feet planted firmly on the ground when it comes to knowing my ability. I was in the same class with 10,000 other guys. I was in the good to very good, range, and every once in a while, when the planets align properly, I could be great, but that didn't happen very often. But I was good. I wouldn't, I could play the game, and I could every once in a while, like when I got the opportunity to play against the absolute elite, I think I held my own, just not saying I did really well, but I think I held my own.
That's all you can hope for.
Sorry?
No, that's all you can hope for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I survived, like you said. I survived.
All right. Do you have any regrets about your career?
I'm not big into that. I kind of don't look back a whole lot. I tend to look forward. I'm a positive thinker, and so I have one really big one. I write about it in the book. But the one regret that I do have is it doesn't have anything to do with my hockey career. I really wished I had asked my parents more about their childhood and their upbringing and aspirations and how they grew up and stuff, because they both grew up in the 30s and 40s, during the war and whatnot. My mom spent some time in an orphanage, and so I really don't know their story, and I really regret not asking about it.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty common. I think that's something we all regret from our past.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. Well, you should be very proud of yourself. You didn't make it to the NHL, but you lived out your dream, and you made the most of your opportunities, and you made sure you gave it everything you had every time you were out there. You should be very proud of yourself.
Yeah, well, even right up until the last game I ever played in 2014, I was still looking for ways to improve. I was still trying to get better, and that's what I'm most proud of. I was still thinking the game and trying things to get better, and that every goalie should be that way.
Right. All right. How about plans for a second book?
Oh man, I'm I'm just kind of riding the wave of this one first, and if you would have asked me this question, a few weeks ago, I would have said, I really doubt it. But since it's gotten such a good reception, and people seem to be loving what I wrote and how I wrote, and they're flipping me ideas, about writing a second one, and some people want me to continue the story, because I've played with a lot of guys, and a lot of characters, and I could tell a lot more stories. And plus, too, what I think I will do is, first off, there's going to be an audio book. So once this COVID thing ends, I've got a friend of a friend, Breaking Bad, I know a guy who knows a guy who's got a recording studio in his house. So we're gonna do an audio book when the time is right, and then what I think I'll do is, because I left a lot out of the book.
Right.
I didn't want it to be a super long read. I wanted it to be a short, entertaining read. It takes me 6 hours to get through it. It takes my wife 4 hours. She's a really fast reader. But it takes me 6 hours to get through it. So, I didn't want it to be really long, so I left a lot of stuff out. What I think I'll do is I'll probably write a revised, expanded edition.
Yeah,
and see how that goes. And then, I'm really not sure, because, I wrote a book, I'm an author, but I'm not a writer, like George, you're a writer.
Well,
you're an author and a writer. I'm a forklift driver. So, writing is foreign to me. It doesn't come naturally. So
right.
Something I really have to think about, and I would like to, sure. I would like to, if the proper idea came into my head and I thought I could do it. Like I said, people are sending me ideas now, so, who knows? I can, it's 50-50, but you know what? I have a friend, his name is Anthony Vermeulen, and I've known him from Whitehorse, and he has written some stuff on Facebook, and my God, that man should write a book. He's like, he writes in a way that it's kind of confusing at the start,
right,
and all connects at the very end, and it gives you goosebumps. It did for me, and I keep telling him he's got to write a book. You are a writer at heart, and so I wish I could write like him. But
well, some people have that talent. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some people are just natural at it.
Okay, where can people buy the book?
It's available on Amazon, both in the States and in Canada. Chapters, Indigo, Ingram's Park, Smashwords, Kobo, Kindle. I think that's about it. It's all online. Can't get it in stores yet, but I'm hoping that'll be not too far in the future.
Okay. What about your website?
Website, www.jerryhack.com, Jerry with a J, all small lowercase. And, so my website has just been up. We haven't really worked on it yet, but it's up, and you can order the book from the website too.
Hey, you got to get that out there. Nobody knows if you don't tell them. So.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I got to get that out there. I tell you, the publisher, like part of my publishing deal, is the marketing end of it, and we weren't going to release the book until October to coincide with the beginning of the NHL season, but with this COVID thing, it just seemed to make sense because everybody's kind of cooped up and a lot of people are clamoring for hockey-related things, and so we decided to release the book early, and then the marketing part hasn't quite caught up yet, so I'm actually really stunned at the reception it's getting, and I couldn't be more pleased, and so it's once the marketing part kicked in, hopefully it'll reach a lot more people, and hopefully everybody loves it as much as you did.
Right. Yeah. Well, as I said at the top, it's a really, really well written, entertaining book, and and sometimes it's just laugh out loud funny, some of the stuff that goes on. So I would highly recommend it to anybody who's looking for a good hockey story, about a good person who tried his best, made the most of his opportunities, and good for you, Jerry. It's a good book. So.
Well, thank you, Jerry. I really appreciate that, and you were the first one to review it who didn't know me personally, so that really meant a lot to me. I still had that last shred of doubt, that people were just saying what I wanted to hear, but you didn't know me, I didn't know you, and so when you reviewed the book and said what you said, I couldn't have appreciated it more because it really, really nailed home the fact that I did something, kind of special, so, and, my story is not really one that's been told before. It's, I don't, at least not that I've heard of. I mean, nobody really did what I did,
Right.
And so it's, most, like you look at the top 10 sellers on Amazon right now, and they're all ex-NHL players. There's
right.
Gretzky and Jordan Tutu and Doug Gilmour and Carey Price and all these NHL players, and then there's me. And me, the so to be in that kind of rarefied air is kind of good, and I'm like I say, I'm just stunned at how well it's doing.
Well, no, it was a very good book, and I had a good time talking to you. If you were here, I'd give you a high five, and it was very, very good talking to you, and thank you for being on the show. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too, and I'll be in touch.
Yeah, sounds good, George. Hey, if I could, I'd just like to say hi to a couple of people.
Sure, go ahead.
We met a guy on an Alaskan cruise last year, Herbie Walsh and his daughter Sophia, and they've become really close friends and kind of like family. So, hey, Herbie and Sophia, and Clint Farrell and his wife Dale Nadeau. They've lived in New York for years and years. I used to play hockey with Clint and their son Derek. So, hello, guys, and one of these days I'll get to New York and we'll all hook up.
Good. All right, Jerry. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Go Rangers, go.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Okay, Ralph, it's all yours.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.